Podcast Network Asia.
What's going on? This is Xavier Woods, a.k.a. Austin Creed.
I said give me a hell yeah!
Hey, this is Zeta Zane.
Hello, WWE Universe in the Philippines. This is Charlotte.
Talent is not sexually transmitted.
You need to go back to the drawing board because your game absolutely sucks!
Hey everyone, this is Jeff Cobb.
I'm Lewis Howley. I'm Sam Spoker. We are pretty deadly. Yes, boy. Yes, boy.
Hello, my name is Ilya Dragunov, the star, the NXT UK champion, and you're listening to the Wrestling Podcast.
You're watching and listening to the longest-running weekly episodic Filipino wrestling podcast and the number one wrestling podcast in Kenya. This is the Wrestling Podcast.
Number 5 na siya.
Number 5 na ba? Sorry.
We dropped down a little bit.
We're celebrating...
Lumabas si Masked Man sa Nairobi.
Sorry naman kay David Shoemaker. We're celebrating our 9th anniversary, so thank you everyone for coming over to the PNA Studios for our live anniversary. Yay! Woo! Woo! So the entire panel is here.
Palakpakan niyo si Rowan kasi first time na dito.
Oh, yeah!
Yeah, it's actually the first time that all 5 of us are complete here. So it's a very momentous occasion that all 5 of us are personally and physically present. For those who are new to some of the faces here, that's Emil ASH over on the far right. Rowan ASH here in the middle. Of course, you know Chino Liao, Romaran, and myself. I'm Stan C. So happy to have everyone here for those watching the video version of the podcast and for those of you checking us out on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. We got to say a bunch of thank yous before we get the show on the road. So, una-una magpasalamat tayo to our producers and everyone here at PNA. We've got Kuya Phil and Jackie, Ivan and Jasper. Palakpakan natin sila. They've been hard at work since the afternoon. To set up everything we've got going on. We've also got some sponsors na kailangan natin pasalamatan. Let's start with Crep Talk Cafe for the coffees and teas and the dinner that we all had tonight. Palakpakan naman natin. It's in a Crep Talk Cafe.
Sarap ng ube. Ube sunset latte. Cold. Sunset.
Yes. We've also got Clyde and Chloe. Meron sila pag-giveaway na coffee in tea bags, which we're going to be distributing after the show. Let's give them a round of applause as well.
Follow them on Instagram, guys, at Clyde X Chloe.
And we've also got Meshwe Shawarma para sa mga di pa tumitikim. It's right there in the white box.
Right there. Best shawarma.
Palakpakan din natin sila Meshwe Shawarma.
It was not hype, right?
Yeah.
You did say it was good.
Yeah. Tama.
And of course, pasalamatan din natin yung mga patrons natin. Some of whom are actually here. So our patrons, thank you so much. Syempre, we comped their tickets for some of them because of course they've been very generous with their support of the Wrestling Podcast.
Pero merong hindi nakarating today because of some emergencies and stuff like that. Next time maybe we could have them here with us.
Yeah. Speaking of Patreon, we're going to throw it over to Emil ASH because that's his designated role to promote how you can financially support the pod.
In front of people?
Can you not choke?
I can do it live.
All right. I would choke.
Let's see.
Yes, we know.
All right. So if you want to get the full Wrestling Podcast experience, you could do it by subscribing to our Patreon at patreon.com/Wrestling Podcast, where you can subscribe for as low as $5 or in your local currency. It's around 275 pesos. There's a lot of perks. If you join our Patreon, you could join the Discord community where we talk about everything and anything under the sun. Of course, we talk about wrestling, but we also talk about a lot of things like food, fashion, memes, sports. And you could also interact with your fellow podcast. So you could do that in our Discord. And also...
Yes, syempre meron pa rin watch parties on Discord. Even though we did an event, a few weeks ago sa Skinny Mics, syempre we can't always do that. So if you're part of the Discord, you can still watch pay-per-views with us.
Yes, you can. And also we have our Pasabais, which the last one we just had a couple of weeks ago. And... per Stan, parating na siya.
That's right. Yep.
Yeah, and also the review content of the weekly wrestling shows like Raw, SmackDown, NXT, Dynamite, and some local wrestling events as well, which Rowan has been doing a good job reviewing MWF's Action Novela recently. And by subscribing to our Patreon, you're supporting everything that we do here on the podcast. So again, please subscribe to our Patreon at patreon.com/wrestling podcast, where you can subscribe for as low as $5.
Contrary sa sinasabi ni JDL, totoo yung sinasabi ni Rowan sa reviews niya.
People in attendance, how did Rowan do with the live plug?
Emil.
Parang wala siyang Emil pala. Wala siyang binasang script, napansin nyo?
Pretty good.
Proof ba? Pasado? Come on!
Thank you.
Give us props, guys!
By the way, since nabuo nyo kaming 5, pwede na kayo mag-wish.
Parang pagpapasok ka ng simbahan for the very first time.
No, we're Dragon Balls.
So 9 years of the Wrestling podcast has led us to this point. We have been doing 573 episodes and counting. We have another couple in the can, so technically this is like 576. It's so wild that we get to do this. The last time we did a live recording was for episode 300. That was in 2019. So that was such a long time ago. Emil,
Hindi pa tayo nagbabago lahat.
Well,
yes. Hindi pa tayo na-experience ng pandemya.
Yeah.
Right?
Hindi pa tayo na-trauma sa
before the Fire Nation attack.
Yes.
So, it really means a lot to us that all of you are here because we all went through a lot in the last 2-3 years, however long it's been, and even the time since we last recorded something live in front of everybody. It's nice to get the wrestling podcast community get together, especially now na live wrestling here in the Philippines is also back. So it's also a really good time to just see everybody and be in everybody's company once again. I want to throw it to Emil here because he's an OG listener. When you were listening to the podcast, what were your impressions? Like, first of all, did you ever think that this was a podcast that you think would make it to year 9, let alone be part of years later?
Yung part of later, di ko na imagine kasi this was the first wrestling podcast na local. So it's weird kasi I just stumbled upon it while reading an article sa Rappler, and then ever since I've been a listener kasi
You're welcome.
Yeah, it was written by Ro here. So yun, I never thought na I would reach 9 years, pero parang hindi ko inakala na 9 years na pala. And I've been listening ever since, and I never thought I'd get to be a part of this. So, although dati, parang I don't know, maybe the daydream ko siya when I was in college na, maybe one day I'll guest here or something. Tapos, ito ngayon, 2023 years later, and I'm actually a part of the podcast now. So it's been siguro parang dream come true then for me.
Oh, thank you, Emil. That it means a lot for you to say that.
Yeah, no, wala naman sasabihin.
All right, I thought you were going to say something.
You look at me like you wanted me to say something.
No. Mano kayo, parang kala ko you were gonna cut in. No, I was going to ask Chino, at this point, have you been part of the podcast longer than you haven't been a part of the pod?
So let me see. Let's do a quick math here. I think I started
2019,
I think
2018
before
ba?
pa. Kasi
Hindi ko
nandun pa
malala.
tayo sa
Bahay ni
Camus,
bahay ni
diba?
Camus,
Recording. So that was a good few years before the pandemic, right? And then the pandemic happened. So siguro I've been part of this pod for about 6 years now. It's definitely the longest pod I've been a part of. So, see, cool pa, it's 4 years pa lang yun. And I'm not even on there all the time. So, yes, definitely. I think it's a unique experience for me to talk wrestling with people who live wrestling 24/7, because I've always considered myself a dabbler. Hindi naman ako involved sa industriya. I've always just been a fan, and I like being a fan, and I always say I like being worked. So to talk about what happens on a weekly basis in the wrestling world is very unique, very memorable.
We ruined things for you, though.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, you want to tell the people about how that happened for you?
Oh yeah, I think this was during one PWR show at Power Mac. We were supposed to talk to Robbie Eagles, right?
Yes.
So the guys tell me to come at around before lunch. So we carved some time out. We talked to Robbie, and I go kasi I wanted to talk to Robbie Eagles. That was the first time we were gonna interview him. Pagpasok ko ng Power Mac, I see people practicing their spots for the show that I was also going to watch. So parang yung experience ko nun was like yung Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, right? Before people got inside the Chocolate Factory, impressed sila kasi it's like a mysterious magical land. Tapos nung nakapasok na sila behind the chocolate factory, na-realize lang nila na kupal pala si Willy Wonka, alam mo yun? Nasira na yung fantasies nila, diba? So that's how I felt seeing people practice. Nawala yung magic niya for me, basically. So that's why I don't really enjoy like working the behind the scenes stuff because I still want to enjoy it as a fan. You know?
Pero nakausap mo ba si Robbie Eagles?
Hindi din. So nasayang lang yung punta ko.
Nasira pa yung ano mo.
Nasira
magic
pa yung
para sa'yo.
expectations ko.
Ikaw, Rowan, has the magic been broken for you now that you're on the pod? We talk about industry things, whether it's in the group chat or on the actual streams.
So far, hindi pa naman. Like, I mean, for me, feeling ko there's still secrets and hindi pa rin nare-reveal. I want to keep things like I want to stay as a fan even if I'm part of this podcast.
Okay.
I can respect that. Of course, Ro and I, we started the pod 9 years ago. The official pilot was right after WrestleMania 30 in 2014. But little known fact is there was actually a secret, barely released pilot. I'm sure it's out there somewhere on the old server where we used to upload stuff, which we recorded January 2014 right after Joshi Jam. So an event very, very important to local wrestling. So we recorded that, or I recorded that half tipsy. And sobrang inexperienced pa namin talking into a mic. I'm not gonna speak for you, but like I didn't think we would get here after recording that very first pilot episode.
Actually, full circle siya kasi we started that at Joshi Jam, and then Tajiri is back once again to entertain us all. I don't have memories of that anymore. No, not the show. I don't have memories of our session. Of our recording session. Sorry. I should have made that clear. Yung recording session kasi it was so long ago and it didn't even end up being the first episode or the episode that was released officially. So I can no longer tell you what it was like.
Unfortunately, I have memories kasi medyo traumatic yung time na yun in my life.
Okay.
I had just broken up with an ex and I went to Joshi Jam that week. And then magkasama kami ni Ro to watch Joshi Jam. Yeah. After that, I met some friends at a nearby bar to go get drinks because, dumped. And then we went straight to Mello. I called Ro up. Hindi pa siya nakakalis ng area. Sabi ko, tara, record tayo ng podcast. So, my tipsy ass went to the studio. So, like, my state of mind wasn't exactly 100% at the time. Fast forward 9 years later, I'm about to get married, motherfuckers!
Congrats! Woo. Pero mas matagal pa rin tong relationship na to.
Actually, yes. By a few months. By a few months. Gusto rin sabihin ni Arya na 100 monthsary din namin this week. So
happy monthsary.
Happy monthsary.
We don't celebrate. It's something we don't celebrate. Pero since she posted it on social media, I felt that I had to acknowledge it. So we are acknowledging that. Yes. I want to throw it back to our two ASHs here because they're the newest members of the podcast. Sila yung, the ones that we're still trying to get to know over the time that they've spent with us. So let's start with Rowan. How has your wrestling diet or your wrestling routine changed since you've joined the pod?
Before you answer that, I have to preface it. When we were looking for new co-hosts to help reinforce kami, one of our criteria was that you're supposed to be watching almost all the weekly TV shows because you need to keep up. So what was that like for you?
It was challenging kasi I'm still a student. I'm a college student. I'm a dentistry student. It was challenging kasi like nag-aaral ako and then at the same time I have to keep up with the shows.
But you applied for it.
Yeah.
Okay. So ginusto mo to?
I was gonna say that. Yeah. Ginusto ko yun. And yeah, it was challenging and well, actually kasi online class pa lang nun. So it was easier for me. Most of the classes are held on Mondays and then there are only 3 subjects. Unlike right now, I'm a third year college student. Halo-halo na yung mga subjects. So there are times na nag-a-absent talaga ako. Nahiya na rin ako sa totoo lang.
Absent sa amin, not sa class.
No, not sa class. Pero sa
let's make that clear. Yeah. We're not encouraging people to abandon their studies.
Kasi may kilala kami na pinrioritize ang wrestling over their studies.
Yeah, the dentistry student din.
From the same university, mind you.
Oh, by the way, fellow alumnus.
Yes. Pero ito si Rowan, at least alam natin, for the record, hindi pa siya nang estafa. So, let's just make that clear. And
Sorry. Keep going.
Yes, keep going.
My bad.
As I was saying, so where was I? So ngayon, I'm a third-year college student and halo-halo na yung subjects. Now, medyo nahihiya ako because I'm mostly absent in the pod. Pero as long as I'm contributing, I hope I'm doing a great job.
Sorry, cut in lang ako. Rowan's been doing more than I have been doing lately.
Self-awareness, everybody.
Yes. Thank you. Hey, fine. I gave you guys the name, but whatever.
He did.
Yeah,
that's true.
Oh yeah, we have to talk about that.
So anyway, well, before you get to that, see, Rowan's been contributing weekly sa kanyang mga reviews, diba? Watching all the weekly shows, MWF shows,
SmackDown
din siya. So give it up for Rowan, man.
Yeah,
he really does a lot.
I am proud of him for making time for that. I think I told you now you don't have to because you're studying, but he still wants to. So good job on that.
Thanks, man.
To Emil naman, si Emil yung started listening to the podcast in like year 1 or year 2, diba? So how has your consumption of wrestling changed since you joined the pod?
Kasi honestly, there was a point I would attribute this to. Remember that Hell in a Cell where yung tinalo ni The Fiend si Seth Rollins?
Yeah.
That was so bad that I really stopped watching
WWE.
main roster WWE for a while. For like 2 years. So I mean, I think I still watch pay-per-views, but like TV programming, I literally stopped because that was like my breaking point. Plus, at that point, I was working at a local bank sa city namin, so I really don't have the time. But fortunately, I had this new job where I work from home na ako and I work at night. So even though yung wrestling night ko ngayon, even though I don't really watch live yung mga weekly shows live, but I would get to watch them while at work kasi yung work ko naman most of the time it's not so super busy. So while I'm working, I would always watch whatever it is na yung nangyari the day on that day. Maybe if it was a Tuesday night, I would watch Raw. If it was a Wednesday night, NXT, Thursday AEW. So now I am back to watching almost regularly, like every weekly show, because you know it's a responsibility of being an ASH here in the podcast. So so siguro I would attribute this to me getting back into it kasi nawalan ako ng gana after nung 2019 because of that. And the state of WWE then was I was not liking the direction of creative. So
wait, yeah. I want to ask you something kasi you, despite that, you would still, tune into the podcast, watch the live stream. Yeah. How did our talk of wrestling and Champion of WWE affect you because you had stopped watching the TV shows?
At least na-update pa din ako in a way. And if there's something interesting na I heard from the podcast, I would make time just to watch that or a segment or a feud or a show. So, yun nawala lang din is yung I would watch the entire thing for a while. So medyo matagal din yun, and then ngayon okay na, nababalik na siya sa normal viewing habit.
Let me ask Emil and Rowan this. Do your friends listen to the pod or do they go out of the way to watch the streams?
May hatak ba kayo?
I mean, I would always tell my friends, and yung wrestling, yung friend ko na wrestling fan, there's only one. And yeah, he also sometimes listen, also sometimes watch.
Tell him that story you were telling me sa car when we were going here last Thursday. About your friend.
No, it's not wrestling naman kasi.
Pero diba, what did he say? Just tell it.
Oh yeah, there was a college schoolmate of mine who asked if I was on this podcast, and I was surprised na hindi naman siya wrestling fan. I never told him na I host a wrestling, I'm part of this. And then I think because he also listened to the Cool Pals and he's familiar with Chino. That's why. And siguro narinig niya ako. So yun lang, nabigla lang ako na may reach din pala.
Umabot nga tayong Nairobi.
Yeah. So yun,
and Germany.
Yeah. And also my girlfriend nanonood din siya even though she doesn't really understand wrestling.
Ganun talaga.
So, if you're watching, I love you. So, yeah.
Ikaw, Rowan.
Oh yeah, so yun din. My girlfriend supports me. I'm not sure if she's watching right now though. Pero if my friends know, only a few knows. Kasi I only have a few wrestling fan na friends. And sa totoo lang, in school, I always keep a low profile na I'm a wrestling fan. Kasi back in elementary to senior high school, I was always known as this wrestling boy.
Okay.
So it was embarrassing. Kaya pagdating ng college, magbabagong buhay na ako.
No, I get it. I get that. Yeah, you do kind of have to keep it under wraps because people are going to be weird about it sometimes. So, but do you want your friends, to listen to you on the show?
Yeah, I recommended it. I'm not sure kung nakinig nga ba sila.
Does your mom still listen to the show?
She doesn't keep up as of yet.
Oh.
Yeah, so this is actually amusing. Like when we found out that Rowan's mom and his dad were watching the live streams, medyo nahiya kami because we would bust Rowan's balls on the streams.
And by the way, his original name was Rowan SHIT.
Yes.
So hindi namin naisip na
naisip yun. No.
spin pala yung SHIT.
Yeah, kasi because of Nikki ASH.
Yeah, right? Yeah. So yung nanay pa ni Rowan yung naawa kay Rowan.
Yeah, so she actually asked, why do they call you Rowan SHIT?
Okay, syempre kasi for those who don't know the context, this is a gimmick from 20 years ago.
Yeah, so it's an actual wrestling thing. Pero syempre, diba? Dahil anak ni si Rowan.
And if you're not in the know, diba, parang it's gonna be awkward. So back in the day, it was superhero in training. So in Rowan's case, show host in training. So yeah, it's nice that we found a more PG version.
Thanks,
so
Nikki Cross.
Emil needs to thank Rowan's mom for not being called.
No, they were talking about this kanina earlier this afternoon.
Yeah.
Rowan thought it was a rib on just him. I mean,
kasi si Emil.
Yeah, but if he was there, if he won in your place when we were doing the TikTok search, we would have called him Emil SHIT too.
Kahit sino pa yan, they would probably have gotten the SHIT.
It's not special for you, Rowan. I'm sorry.
So, backstory then behind Rowan joining the pod. There was a time when I thought I was actually going to have to leave the podcast when I got the commentary job with WWE. So I was really afraid of leaving the podcast kasi this was something Rowan and I had started all those years ago and we'd put so much work into it. We got signed to a network, diba? We'd evolved the podcast all these years.
Salamat, Boss Ron, Joseph.
Yeah, diba? Thank you to the PNA crew for giving us a home over the last 4 or 5 years. So I was really hesitant to let it go. And then that's when we thought of doing the TikTok search, which is how Rowan and Emil came into the picture eventually. But it was like one last-minute conversation before Survivor Series 2021, which is the first show we did on Tagalog commentary. Na my boss finally said, yeah, it's okay. You can do the pod. Like,
bawal lang mag-talk shit against Vince.
Just don't talk shit against the WWE. Always keep it positive, which is such a fair ask, diba?
Yeah. As PR people, naman, it's a common thing that happens.
Right. So that also explains why I've had to take a back seat and be more of the table setter during the conversations, whereas before, medyo mas unfiltered ako with the takes on the pod.
Yeah, it's been great since marami na rin yung voices. So I think it was a welcome evolution, if you will. It's sad that not everyone gets to go on. Rowan still has his studies, but I think the next generation is doing pretty well.
So 9 years of the pod, it wasn't always like this where we were able to record 2 to 3 episodes a week and have everything be all condensed in like an hour. There were times, and I'm sure some of you guys in the crowd know this from having listened to the older shows, where we would be recording for 3 to 4 hours. We would start at like...
tayo sa maliit na kwarto, diba?
Yeah. Tapos, paglabas, sobrang pagod na because it's like 10:30, 11 p.m. And then we would have to edit that shit.
Those
and then
early
upload
days
that.
with those reviews, man.
Yeah.
I'd get there at 6, matatapos kami 10:30 na.
Yeah. Tsaka yung interviews din. We didn't know how to keep it short.
Yeah.
It was super difficult that when we joined PNA, one of the first things they said was, you got to cut it down. You have to condense it.
Yeah, salamat Podmetrics.
Actually, yeah. No, we were very hesitant because we were like, no, that's the essence of the podcast. Like, it's supposed to be unli talk, diba? You can go for as long as you want.
Tsaka maraming ganap.
So when COVID happened, everything changed because una we couldn't record in person anymore, so we had to experiment with recording from home, recording via Zoom. There was another thing that PNA bought. We tried many years ago. Yung parang audio only.
Yeah.
Ano yan?
Alam ko yun. Yung parang
Stitcher ba yun or something?
Yeah, parang ganun.
It sounds like it.
It does it per track diba?
Yeah.
I don't remember
anymore. Medyo complicated siya.
COVID has damaged me.
Hindi siya gumana.
So that didn't really help us. And then the live stream idea from PNA was super helpful.
Yes, game changer.
Because then it became like an actual talk show that people would tune into on Thursdays at 7 p.m. So
Nag-start din siya because of our friends from Kumu, diba?
Yes. So
we started doing it on Kumu and then kumita kami ng pera. So tinuloy na namin kasi kumikita kami ng pera.
So it was a much better way to discuss the show.
Yes.
I mean, like, may audience participation. That's how we knew of Rowan and Emil's.
And Bruce was actually in the crowd.
Father Bruce, Aaron then. I mean, we already know Aaron, but, he's a regular participant sa Usapan. Admin Jackie as well got to watch every week.
We got to do the pick of the week.
Yes.
The picks of the week on a weekly basis.
So that really was a game changer. I'm not joking when I say that, because it really changed the way we did the show.
Yeah, and I'm actually happy to take the L because I was the one who was really vehemently against shortening the pod.
Shortening the pod.
Yeah, I didn't want to shorten the pod or condense it. Like, I was really into just keeping it into like a full-blown conversation. Parang Talk is Jericho, which was one of the original inspirations of the pod.
Kasi all the other wrestling pods that we know of from the States, that's how they operate. Sobrang tagal talaga. Bruce Pritchard goes for at least 1 hour and 30 minutes, diba? Chris Jericho used to go at least 2 hours. Now he's cut it down, and we thought that was okay. And then, syempre, the stats show and people prefer a shorter podcast format.
Hindi sila sumama sa Podmetrics Hindi nila alam yung start-stops nila.
Yeah, so sobrang laking bagay that we were able to evolve, the podcast. Syempre, it's great to have this live interaction every Thursday when we do the live streams. Even the sponsorships, because that's something that we used to struggle with. Here's an early podcast story. Some of the OGs from Philippine wrestling who are here will know this story. There was a time when PWR was actually a sponsor of the early incarnation of the podcast. So the arrangement at the time was PWR would pay like 2,000, 3,000 pesos per month. And we would have to plug PWR shows every week. So that's
how it works naman talaga.
Yeah, yun naman talaga yung usapan, diba? The first month, the money came in. Second month, the money was late. By the third month, nung naningil na kami for the sponsorship, puta, di na dumating yung pera. And we started asking, where's the money? Kala ko ba may sponsorship? Like, we're doing our end of the deal, right? And we had like the receipts to prove it.
Yeah.
And then after that, si Campos got in trouble with the PWR locker room, and then they put him through our version of Wrestler's Court, which for the uninitiated is basically a kangaroo court where kung sino man yung nagkasala, they will be judged and tried in front of the entire roster.
By the boys,
right. So one of the resolutions from that Wrestler's Court session was Campos was supposed to have been taken out of the podcast to be
host
replaced.
Na siya nun,
Host na si Campos and replaced by the president at the time, the estafador. And I was like, oh my God, what did we get ourselves into?
Buti hindi natuloy yan.
Yeah.
Hindi natuloy.
But we did have him on the Wrestling God, so we will both take the L for that one.
No, I will. That was my idea.
Yes. So that was one of the earliest sponsorships of the pod that we ever had. So that was how, paano ba? Like, sobrang di namin alam yung landscape of podcasting at the time.
Look at us now, though. 9 years later, we have actual legit sponsors.
Yeah, we had a bank. We've had a fast food company.
Yeah. Disney Plus
sponsored the party.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. We've had Kramer as a sponsor then for the giveaways. We've had New Era Cap.
Yeah.
So, we've had all these brands join us.
And our best partner so far, because of them, nakausap namin yung mga wrestlers na gusto namin makausap, Centaur Marketing.
Yeah, WWE. No, WWE itself, yeah.
Yeah. Sobrang laking bagay nun when we found out that Centaur Marketing had included the Wrestling Podcast as an official media partner.
I was a journalist for a day.
Oh, we have to thank our friend Veronica Litton.
Yes, shout
out. She told me this in private. She knew kasi that myself and Stan and syempre the rest of the boys here, we are legit and we know what we're talking about. And she wanted someone who knew what they were talking about to be a part of those media roundtables with the wrestlers. So that's why you hear kanina when the OBB played, you heard the voices of people like Ilya Dragunov, Charlotte Flair, Pretty Deadly.
Yeah. We got Riddle. We talked to Riddle.
Oh yeah.
Because of our partnership. Diba?
Yeah. So
we got to do the live event here in Manila. Nakanood wrestling na libre thanks to the podcast.
So if we didn't do what we did passionately, we wouldn't have gotten that.
Yeah. It really, I can speak for myself lang when I say na the podcast really played an influential role in how my career's moved forward. I can only hope that, something similar could happen to like everyone who gets actively involved in the scene. But for me, I can really say na sobrang laking bagay ng nagawa ng podcast for me because of the doors it opened, the people I've been able to meet, the connections I've been able to form, not just in the country but outside as well. It's really made us more accessible to the larger world of wrestling, which I didn't think was actually possible, diba? Because of the pod. I want to send it back to the ASHs here, particularly Rowan, because one of the things we like to bust Rowan's balls on is how when we had Robbie Eagles on the show, he was so starstruck that he couldn't really utter a question. So, Rowan, can you take us through what was going through your mind knowing that this was a guy whose stuff you would watch on your screen, diba? On your computer?
Did you ever think then that you would actually be part of the interviews with actual wrestlers?
Hindi ko rin na-imagine yun. Pero I guess parang I didn't expect it na ganun kabilis. Like
Okay.
I don't even have a 1 year yet.
Right.
Parang ilang months pa lang ako. And then yun na nga, starstruck ako. I'm like David Otunga in SmackDown commentary. Na sobrang tahimik, doesn't utter a word. And sa totoo lang, I don't really know what to ask din kay Robbie Eagles because parang natanong nyo na rin yung mga dapat itanong eh. Mm-hmm. So I have nothing else to know.
That's true. That is on us.
Yeah. Shout out to Robbie Eagles, good friend of the pod, who would constantly check in on Rowan during the recording. Like he would actually say, "Rowan, you still good, bud? Rowan, how are you hanging over there?" So, credit to him for actually making Rowan feel comfortable. Ito si Emil.
Si Robbie din yung nagpakilala sa atin kay Grayson Waller.
Oh, that's right.
Waller, diba?
Yeah, one of my favorite interviews on the pod is with Grayson Waller, who we got to have on the pod a week before he announced he'd gotten signed to NXT. Like, imagine how lucky that was na he probably already knew, he just couldn't announce it yet. Nakuha pa natin siya.
Kami kasi ni Stan, we're big Survivor fans. So the fact that we got to talk to him about wrestling and Survivor, the TV show, sobrang laking bagay nun para sa amin.
I wish we knew so that we could have him on the OBB, but them's the breaks.
Yeah. Ito si Emil. Emil, you got to talk to somebody who's actually here in the audience, one Ken Warren, just last week. What's it like for you knowing na parang the pods kind of helped you get closer to the people you watch online?
I couldn't believe it kasi I was just watching these guys for years. Like, di pa ako nakanood ng live wrestling show, but I've seen the work of these wrestlers for years in the local scene, and starstruck ako. Seeing them here.
Because they're watching you now.
Yeah, oh my God. So yeah, ganun din, same feeling din with Rowan when we were talking.
Nakalimutan pa yung pangalan ni Rowan.
When we were talking with Ken, and also last Thursday,
with Yappy.
Parang hindi rin ako masyadong nakapagtanong kasi I was just pero
maghanda ka na kasi meron pa tayong isang malaking bigatin na
exactly,
interview soon.
Yeah. So siguro I have to get it out the way na, and siguro I have to be used to the feeling of interviewing the wrestlers na nakikita ko lang sa online or sa TV. So I have to get used to it starting siguro now.
Well, that's the perfect segue then. Let's actually bring in an actual wrestler. Let's bring in Ken Warren onto the set. We have a seat here for the digital demon.
Please restrain
Longtime friend of the pod.
Please restrain Mr. Jake De Leon.
He's here.
Yeah.
Ken Warren, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Guys.
Sabi natin one last hurrah, but there's another last hurrah for Ken, and it's happening right now. A round of applause, please, for our friend Ken Warren. Ken, we're recording this on Sunday night for the people who are watching this or listening to this on demand. How many days before you fly off into the greener pastures of Canada?
The Great White North.
3 days. 3 days. I am gone and off to the sunset, as they would say. And I don't know when I'll be back. Maybe 2 years or 2.5, or I really don't know. So yes.
Nag-sink in na ba that, you know, the childhood dream of being an actual wrestler is something you'll have to set aside for now?
Half and half. Honestly, half and half. You guys, actually, yung planned podcast ni Chino na Rowan and Emil hosted, ganun pa rin talaga yung pakiramdam. Medyo half and half pa kasi ang feeling ko mararamdaman ko siya. I'm gonna feel the sacrifice, if you will, that I have to make now when I get there in 3 days. Like talagang young adulting, second time around after or maybe post-pandemic. So I don't know. I'm excited for it. I'm always a person who goes with the flow, Pisces. So we just go with the flow. Let's see. Like I was just swing with the sharks or I drown. I don't know.
I listened to the episode that you recorded with the guys because I wasn't able to be there, right? So have you already found yourself a job for when you get there?
Oh, so it's tricky. So people always ask me this question. Not yet kasi si agency mismo that helped me get my open work permit visa, they advise to get the job when you get there. Kasi technically they're obliged to fly you in if they get me from here in the Philippines going there. So imagine, would I even get
a company wouldn't really bring you in unless it's easier for them when you're already there.
Yes, exactly. So, which I get. Like, you know.
Okay. You had your last match about the last MWF tapings. So, what was going through your mind when the bell finally rang and the match was over?
I was in the zone, but something I wasn't able to mention when a similar question was asked during one of the last guestings here. I was trying to work my girlfriend. That was the goal. Work a person who's not really a fan of pro wrestling. For those who don't know.
All right, sorry. So can we say it without spoiling? Or
who do we ask?
I don't know.
Am I gonna ask? I'm technically a free.
Get you in trouble.
I'm a free agent. But like,
what are they gonna do? Fire you?
I'm not gonna say the result, but like,
Masususpend ka ba?
How?
Well, spoiler, pagka napanood nyo yung taping, you will see me cry there.
Oh, dude.
Ano yung part na work? Babe, di pala ako pupuntang Canada.
You're on your own.
Well, the joke's on us, but I said the story differently. If you listen to the pod, that you know what I'm talking about. When I say work, like, because my girlfriend Liz, she's not a fan of pro wrestling. So, may mga times doon na I was getting beat up and she was smiling. Like, what the fuck? Can I curse here? And I'm like, what the fuck, dude? Like, she's like smiling. I was seeing like glimpses. Like, she's just smiling. Everyone else was like on the edge of their seats and shit. And I'm like, why are you fucking smiling, dude?
Jake De Leon fan pala siya.
No, not even.
Playing work.
Not even. I'm like, so towards the end of the match, I checked on her again, like while selling, I guess. And like, she was like, from her face smiling, she became like, so like, okay, I did my job. Like, I didn't get her full concern, for lack of a better term, but I did get to see that suspension of disbelief even for 1 to 5 seconds. Just made her think twice and like, I did my job. Okay, but at first she was smiling and like, this is bullshit, dude. Why smile? I'm getting my ass kicked. But yeah.
What's it like for you na in the span of like 6 weeks, 7 weeks, you had your last match here in the Philippines, and then you got to live the ultimate fan dream of flying to the States and watching WrestleMania live? Because that's a roller coaster of emotions right there.
Yes. Overwhelming. Still feel like it's a dream. Akala ko talaga matatapos yung mundo ng 2020. Thankfully, we're all alive. I never thought mamimit ko yung childhood hero ko, Shawn Michaels. So, ang sabi nga ng isang friend, I even forgot whose friend that told me this one, na parang, after meeting HBK, I feel like everything else, this is bonus. I get to be in your 9th anniversary, the Wrestling Podcast, formerly Smart Gilas Pilipinas podcast. I acknowledge you guys too.
Right.
So I was there, right? everything else is just like side quests. Yung perfect term is side quest. I feel like kahit anong mangyari sa akin, like, dude, I'm happy. Met my hero. I wrestle. I'm paying it forward or paying it back to my family now as a young adult. So yeah, bro, like I'm living life and I'm thankful I'm alive.
Gusto ko yung ginawa tayong ka-levels ng HBK. Like, it says HBK and then us. As it should be, right?
That's the bar.
He acknowledges us, yeah.
You had a question? It was your idea to interview.
No, because Ken, Warren, and I, to shoot a little here, are actually classmates from CSP.
Oh, yeah.
Photography class.
Right. Photography class. I remember watching him before I even knew he was my classmate during one PWR show. And then, nung nagka-class na, I saw him from across the room, like one of those meet cutes on TV.
So you locked eyes from across the room.
And I was like, si Ken Warren ba yun? Is he the wrestler? Can't be, right? Because he's in college, right? So
Surprise!
kami, and then now, apparently he also listened to the pod then. When I started doing the reviews.
I think, because we already had him on.
Yeah, diba? So we started doing the reviews at around the same time that I, started seeing sila Ken, sila JDL do their thing. So parang na-meet ko siya, again, not only did na-experience ko din yung na-experience ni Emil at that time, but then I also made a new friend. And si Ken and I, whenever we see each other sa SDA or wherever in CSB, diba, we talk wrestling for a bit, diba? So yun, at least, diba, the bridges that this podcast has built for everybody here is just incredible.
Emil, Rowan, any questions you have for Ken while we still have the man live and on the pod?
Siguro, Ken, when you're in Canada, like, would you still think na there'll still be a chance for you to be a pro wrestler? There's gonna be an opportunity. There's gonna be an opportunity for you to. There's gonna be an opportunity for you to still be a pro wrestler.
Or are you actually actively seeking? I know we already talked about this, but again, for those who weren't able to listen, are you seeking out opportunities?
Yes, pero my answer remains the same, sadly, which is it's not priority.
All right.
I really have to. My goal is PR or permanent resident. That's the goal para talagang makaipon. And sayang I feel like, di ba?
Yeah, tama. Mahirap masaktan dun pag di pa libre yung healthcare.
Right? If you're just considered tourist.
Yeah, exactly, right?
Pay for everything.
Yet that's socialist healthcare, brother.
Right?
Yeah. Right?
I have to know about those stuff too.
Yeah,
dude. It's not priority, pero the goal is find a work na it's gonna be flexible enough. They're gonna allow me to do something like that. Maybe on the weekends, maybe on once a month, like the setup here. But never say never, right? Katulad sinabi ko sa inyo, pero it's not the goal. Pero pwedeng mag-backfire sa akin. Usually, it's not the goal. It's not the goal. Pagdating yung wrestling. So, I do that. Like, I don't know. I wish I could answer it on more concretely, pero ang answer ko right now is it's not priority. But I wish I could.
All right.
So I'll try to find a way.
Yeah.
Ikaw, Rowan, may questions ka ba for Ken?
Actually, no, but...
Pinasign mo na ba yung t-shirt mo sa kanya?
I will later.
I appreciate you, bro. Thank you.
I have a question.
ProWrestlingTees.com/.
I think Rowan actually has something to say. Sorry.
All I'm gonna say is #thank you.
#thank. All caps you.
I have a question.
Applause break for Rowan.
We didn't quite get to talk about it nung Thursday or nung isang araw. But we already know that your last match here is against Jake De Leon.
And it's not a work.
Yeah, it's not a work. What are your feelings about that? About how it almost kind of came full circle with your last outing in the Philippines being with him?
Dude, life is like that. Yung parang no matter how much you prepare, how much you want things to be aligned, if you will, sometimes sila mismo nag-align in the least moment you expect it. Because I never disclosed I was leaving to anyone until December of 2022.
Party natin.
Sa Christmas party namin. Some of them, like the guys from Fight Sport Manila, good brothers of Fight Sport Manila, and the Nutcase brand, so the PK Gonzalez, Paulo Gonzalez, and Cholo Gonzalez, they knew about it on the taping day. They didn't know about it beforehand. I kept saying to them, like, guys, let's have a meeting. There's so many plans with cards and like, let's go merch. And I'm like, because they invested in my brand and my former brand, #PWOGs and Jake De Leon's. So I'm very thankful for people like who support the brand, who invest in the brand that we've been investing in since 2014. But like, I wanted to keep it as low-key as possible, pero sometimes, again, you can't fake through emotions if true life events are actually happening. So I feel like that's the best story you can tell because it's not a work. It's really a story to tell because it's my story. It's my legit story. It's for some would see like parang unfortunate. I would say unfortunate for a lack of a better term. Na why is it for a show? Well, sadly or like unfortunately for those who see it that way, I'm part of a show, and this is the story of my life beyond the Ken Warren brand. So let's incorporate it and let's sink some reality into what's happening in the local pro wrestling scene because it gets the best emotions out of the performers of everyone. So it's like my one last, here you go, local pro wrestling scene. I'm giving it my all, and I'm doing it my best. Like here you go.
Speaking of a fan's perspective, Rowan has a story about finding out yung stipulation na yan, or yung pasabog mo nung taping.
Oh yeah, so you and JDL were cutting a promo, right? Yun yung nag-break na ang PWOGs. And that was the time na my heart really dropped na, oh, Ken Warren's leaving and he's going to Canada.
Did you believe it?
Yeah, I did believe it, and like me speaking in the kasaysayan taping, this could be the last time I could see him.
Tapos nandun ka pa.
Oo, nandun pa ako. And then, hindi ko pa nadala yung shirt. So, oh no, nalimutan ko dalhin yung shirt. Hindi ko pa mapapasign.
Ang tanong, Rowan, may pen ka ba ngayon para mapasign yung shirt mo?
Yes, I came in prepared.
Prepared.
Okay, very good, very good.
Damn, thank you.
It's like a boy scout.
Can I also mention like yung to answer Stan's question earlier too, to add on to it, parang di mo in-expect ano yung mga nangyayari. I didn't expect one of the first trainers of PWR was going to be there. So King was there.
That's
and Chili Willy was there.
Yes.
Like so many important people that helped the local pro wrestling scene was witnessing a match that could be possibly, for now, my last match locally for a while. So parang this is so weird. Life can be weird like that, but sometimes that's the best situation to just live in the moment, if you will.
Yeah. Kasaysayan talaga.
Before we let you go, we've got our friends here. People are probably watching this as well. Is there anything you want to say one last time on the pod?
For those who wasn't able to thank during that, I don't know if they're gonna air it. I just want to say thank you. Maraming salamat. Thank you for investing in the Ken Warren brand, the #PWOG's brand throughout the years. The promotions I've been a part of, freaking Philippine Wrestling Revolution or PWR, Manila Wrestling Federation, MWF, Set Up Thailand. Thank you for investing in the brand. The Nutcase, Fight Sport Manila, the Wrestling Podcast. The guys I'm able to meet now, Emil, Chino, nice to see you again, bro. Rowan, Ro, Stan, the guys who are here in the live studio audience right now. I've never imagined I'm gonna be part of a live guesting. So this is awesome and like nerve-wracking, but it's awesome because like, I'm at the age now. It's like whatever. I'm just going with the flow.
Ken, kaka 420 lang.
420 lang. I don't do 420. I know I look like it, but I don't.
Holiday.
Depende kung magpa-partake ka ba sa holiday na yun.
I don't even know what goes on during that day.
Yeah. Thank you to the guys of Podcast Network Asia for setting this up. I acknowledge everyone who puts in the work for the local pro wrestling scene. Sobrang thank you for the fans. Again, thank you for the non-believers. Thank you for the challenges. We've been loving all the challenges, and I'm sure the boys and the girls can't wait to prove you guys or girls wrong as well. So keep tuning in.
Yo.
Ken Warren, everybody, thank you so much.
One more time for Ken Warren, guys.
Woo! All the best, brother, in your future endeavors. And as Ken Warren makes his way back to his seat, let's get to the name, yung Wrestling Podcast. Ro wanted to bring it up earlier because, as Ken mentioned earlier, diba, this show started under a different name, the Smart Gilas Pilipinas Podcast, which as the years went on, we realized that the name really did need to change. And when we got picked up by PNA, we collectively decided na, it sounds like the right time to move on from its old name, or from the old name.
Yeah, yung mismong group pa lang that beast. People were mistaking it for a smart Gilas group. So they thought it was a basketball group. They thought it was a men's national basketball team group. I don't know. You're a basketball fan, Emil. Did you think it was a basketball? Were you part of the group?
No, actually no. Pero I am aware na may group na ganun.
It's okay. It's better that way.
Wag mo na hanapin yung group.
Wag mo na hanapin. Wag mo na hanapin.
There are days when I'm this close to just detonating it.
Yeah, but it was funny at first kasi we could not think of a name. So we just thought of naming it after the group because that was the group we ran. But eventually, yun nga, it wasn't marketable kasi people, it didn't evoke what the podcast was all about. And doon lang yung word na
Tsaka
smart.
To be fair, wala naman may alam ko ano yung smart.
Yeah. Exactly. That's what I was gonna say. Na, the only indicator was smart, and that wasn't so obvious. So thanks, term, Chino. You want to tell the story again, Chino?
So one time, may nagpa-picture sa akin. Siyempre, kailangan ko put over yung sarili ko, di ba? So one time, may nagpa-picture sa akin. Tapos sabi niya sa akin, sir, listener ako ng podcast. Sabi ko talaga, the cool pal. Sabi niya, hindi, yung wrestling. Which is like a Filipino way to say na parang, hindi yan yung basketball, di ba?
Dinodoble yung word.
Yes, di ba? Some Filippinism, di ba? Kasi hindi na maalala yung smart gilas nga. So I told the guys this one pod, and then Pepe, si Stan, protective siya dun sa smart gilas wittiness niya. Nagalit siya for like 5 minutes. Like, grabe! 9 years kong ginawa yung smart gilas! And for like 2 weeks, that was his rant.
I thought it was funny.
And which is funny, to be fair. It was hilarious that set him off, diba?
But I thought the wrestling part was funny.
So to me, it was funny that's what set him off. Until after a while, they caved in and just renamed it that, which is
sinuggest kasi siya, diba? I also brought up the fact that we do need to change the name.
When we got picked up by PNA, it was suggested that we need to rebrand ourselves to make it more marketable.
No, they wanted us to keep using the name. Kasi,
Smart Gilas?
Yeah. Kasi it was our thing already.
Oh, it.
Kaya they didn't want to touch that.
Right. Okay.
Ako lang nag-suggest na we should change it kasi it is not good.
Yeah. Pero kudos to the PNA team kasi sila din gumawa ng belt logo.
Yes. Really great branding.
The cover art that you guys see on a weekly basis, sila din yan.
Yung lumang cover art, ako lang gumawa nun sa Photoshop. If you guys remember that, it's just the words with the Philippine flag cover.
And I think yung Philippine flag was like from the Joshi Jam event pa,
No, I don't know. It was just a random stock photo of the Philippine flag. So, yun. Thank you, PNA, for making it look a lot better.
Yeah, ganun kami ka-amateur back in those days na naglalabas pa kami ng pera to feed the server. And then we had that logo na text-based lang. Now we actually have, merch.
Yeah, dati naghahanap pa kami ng locations to record.
Oh, yeah.
Like, hindi pa sure, week to week, hindi pa sure kung saan kami mag-record.
Transient.
And now, we got our own studios. We can do it from the comfort of our own homes.
Yeah.
Some of the people here may remember the very first location where we recorded, which was the Mellow 94.7 booth from back in the day. And for those of you who used to record there, you guys would know how cramped it would be if there would be 5 guys, diba, inside. Just 5 guys. Sobrang sikip na sa loob. Emil Rowe, hindi yun experience yun. Yung talagang wala kang elbow room.
Yeah, it was awkward. We didn't know how to set up the mics and all of that. Wala pang ang video. Diba?
Tapos yung mga kable, sobrang, nagkakapilipit-pilipit sila. And then to exit the room to take a piss, you would have to move the entire setup. So that was something we had to deal with back in the day.
Also because the equipment was legit. Kasi we went through all that trouble because it was radio station equipment. So legit siya.
Yeah. Shout out to Boss Luigi Vera. Let's give him a round of applause, please, because he was very instrumental in the podcast, actually getting the ball rolling. Because without his blessing and without him saying na you don't need to pay a single centavo, we probably wouldn't have been able to start the pod. Because I remember going into his office and actually saying, "Boss, we're willing to pay whatever sponsorship money we get. We'll set aside for you." Unbeknownst to us, we just get 2,000 pesos total. But I was saying we were willing to pay a little bit because gagastos kami ng kuryente, internet, yung equipment, iinit, diba?
Tapos ngayon tayo na yung binabayaran. What's up, diba?
Yeah. Salamat sa PNA for looking for sponsors for us. Yeah, it's legit.
Yeah, so so much really has changed over the entire run of the pod. At this point, we are, I would say, 14 weeks away from episode 600, which is probably another milestone. I don't know how we're gonna celebrate that. But before we just, I guess, wrap things up here, is there any other stories that you guys want to share from, your time on the pod, having listened to the podcast for the two ASHs that, you want to share with all of our friends who are here at the studio?
I want to share like what Emil shared kanina is that hindi ko rin in-expect that I would be part of this podcast. I was just a listener from late 2015, and actually hindi ko to madidiscover because like kung hindi ko na-discover ang PWR. So first, na-discover ko ang PWR because of that When in Manila article. And then suddenly, pinalo ko lahat ng mga personnel ng PWR, and then si Mr. C, he promoted SGP podcast, and then that's when I first heard and listened to this podcast, and I remember it was like the year-end episode pa.
Right. May question ako.
Mm-hmm.
Kilala mo na ba dun si Sandata? Kasi this guy, did you know who he was? This guy though. No, serious question. Did you know who he was?
I know it was a certain Romeo,
okay.
Pero I didn't know na affiliated sa podcast.
Okay. I want to tell a story about your audition. So you mentioned joining the podcast. We did a TikTok search, diba? So one of the what we asked for the TikTok search was for aspirants to post a TikTok video talking about anything something. But to talk about something,
give an opinion on wrestling.
Give a take. This guy
cracks a promo.
Woo! He thought he was Bray Wyatt in the Firefly Funhouse. So not paying attention ka.
Pero nakapasok naman siya.
Yeah, I told him to do it again and actually give a take. Kasi I liked his voice. You have a good voice. So I didn't want to let him go. So pinaulit ko siya, and that's how we officially got the ball rolling with him.
And also si Emil din nag-audition that time.
Yeah.
Yep, I did. Pero I'm okay nga na they chose him over me because that time yes, I was working from home, pero I was still working in my previous job, which if I got accepted then, and I don't think I would have doing this regularly kasi working in a bank can be,
yes,
it can take so much of the time.
I know.
So thankfully I got accepted here when I already got yung work from home job ko, which allowed me to have flexible hours and allowed me to be here weekly on the podcast.
Cut to Emil hitting Rowan with a steel chair in the back. You took my spot!
No. Pero I'm thankful for these three, Stan, Ro, and Chino, for always coaching me kasi I remember my first official episode ko, and I didn't like what I did there.
Ito ba yung nakasando?
No, that wasn't it. Like even I know na I was so nervous and I was like rambling on, and then na-notice niyo na I kept on rambling on, and you gave me good advices, and ever since then na-develop ko na yung mga good habits na taking notes, watching weekly wrestling every week, tapos concising yung mga sagot. So they're really good coaches, and they really helped me a lot. Mag-1 year na ako in a few months.
Really?
Yeah.
Legit? Hindi nga, totoo.
No.
Nag-1 year na siya.
Nag-1 year ako last November.
Last November.
Technically kasi my first
yung guesting.
That was August. Yeah.
Which went much better than your first official episode.
Maybe that's because of the nerves. Kasi guesting, like, you're only gonna be there one time, so there's no pressure.
Kala mo nakatakas ka.
Yeah. So yeah, like kasi di rin ako honestly, di ako nag-prepare nung first
because I asked on the day itself.
Yeah, I got the notes as yun na. Pero yung first official, like I didn't think I would be nervous, but I was. And but thankfully these guys, they really helped me. And until now naman, may mga times na kina-coach pa rin ako, which I'm okay with kasi my goal naman every week is to improve, never settle. So thank you to these guys.
Just to give context to what Emil was saying, we always have notes kasi before we do the streams. So we really do treat it like a live show where there is some skeleton of a script where we actually write everything down in bullet points, like yung
May
agenda
rundown,
namin. Yeah, so may rundown kami, and it's just to keep us really on track. Even though we've been doing this for so long, sometimes you do end up going on tangent. So you have to keep it professional pa rin kahit papano, even if on the surface it looks like it's just, just five guys talking about wrestling.
Yun yung hindi natin nagawa dati kaya umabot tayong 3 hours.
Yeah. That and a bunch of other nonsense that we would get to before and after the recordings. So there. Anything else from the guys before we wrap this one up?
Yeah, no, I just wanted to say na because of this pod, naging part na din tayo, or ako, witness ko yung evolution of like Philippine wrestling, diba?
Yeah.
From that sweaty MCS rooftop or whatever, yung gym doon, diba? Nagsisiksikan tayo.
Mabot ka nun, Rowan.
Naabutan ko yun.
Diba? Tapos
PWR
ang
Live.
init, nagsisiksikan tayo doon. And now they're performing in theaters.
Yeah.
Diba? Actual world-class theaters in the country. So, grabe din yung evolution ng Philippine wrestling from the handful of regulars that you see to now families even taking their kids to watch wrestling now. Grabe din yung evolution of the promotions and the growth, and it's just amazing to witness na parang we are actually all witnesses to that incredible transformation.
Yeah, very well said. Siguro coincidence, or happy coincidence that the pod started literally as the renaissance of Philippine wrestling came to be. Like, halos side by side, diba? Nung naantala lang yung wrestling because of COVID, the pod kept going. So, good for us, I guess. But, it's nuts to see that this is where we are all at right now. And I'm just thankful that all of you are part of the journey. All of you listening, watching are part of the journey alongside us, and that we can keep doing this for hopefully 9 more years, or hopefully 20 years total.
Even all the people na nagsasabi na ang pangit ng reviews ko or reviews ni Rowan, you guys really...
Wala pong nagsasabi ng pangit reviews ko.
Wala pa.
Swerte ka eh. Swerte
ka ba? Ako lang yung sabihan.
Although there's this someone who said na I'm spreading lies.
Huwag na natin siya pangalanan. But everybody who gave us their opinions, who let us, it just shows na madami din nakikinig na our words actually have an impact on the local fandom here. And so, malaking bagay yun kasi we're not just speaking into a void, as it were, diba? Na people actually listen, people actually care about what we have to say, and respetado tayong mga tao for some reason.
As we wind down here, any last words from the guys? Sheen, are you good?
I'm good. I've said all I needed to say.
Emil.
I just wish for 9 or many more years of the podcast. And again, thank you to everyone, PNA, and then to you guys, and to our listeners for supporting the podcast. Especially those people who have come up to me and said, they know me
you'll get used to it.
Yeah, nakapanibago pa din until now.
Pero, shout out to those two guys who met us at Skinny Mike.
Yung Rowanatics mo.
Mga Dabarkads.
Give him a shout out in the comments.
Sorry nga lang, hindi lang namin nakuha names niya. Sorry.
Yeah, yun din.
Sa Skinny Mikes.
Sa Skinny Mikes.
Look at you big timing people not even asking for their names.
Pro tip, you always ask them what their name is.
And also to the people who always hang out sa comment sections every episode. So thank you.
Special shout out to Bruce.
Father Bruce.
First
one of the regulars.
Father Bruce, thank you.
Lagi siya nauna. Every Thursday is always like the first one.
Thank you for making time, Bruce.
Thank you for letting us know that we're actually online.
Yeah.
Si Bruce yung marker eh.
Importante.
That's true, yeah.
Kasi kung di magko-comment si Bruce, hindi namin alam na kung may kausap na kami.
One time wala pa si Bruce, nagtaka kami kung yung internet namin.
Natakot ko, online ba kami?
Natakot kami tatlo. Actually, kala namin nag-down ba yung internet dito? Ano nangyayari?
Si Bruce eh.
Na-late lang pala si Bruce.
Na-down ba yung StreamYard?
So thank you, Bruce. You get a special shout out.
Hey.
And then, last thing na lang kasi like my dream talaga nung college was to be involved in media, especially in sports or in wrestling, in my interest. And for a while, I thought hindi ko na siya may realize kasi I had work, I had moved away from that, and then this gave me like a second opportunity to live out that dream, to be in a podcast, speak to people about the thing I love, which is wrestling. So So much gratitude here from me to everyone here in the podcast. So again, thank you so much.
Rowan?
I've said it before and I'll say it again that ako hindi ko na imagine that I'll be part of this podcast. And right now, I'm celebrating with the guys, with the boys.
Yes.
Last year, 8th anniversary, 9 na ngayon.
Oh, you were there, yeah,
yeah.
in person.
So, ako hindi ko talaga expect. Oh, we also had our 500th episode last year.
Yeah, that's right.
So, another milestone, and then this another milestone.
600,
yeah. And then another milestone, 600. Yeah. So, I'm really happy to be part of it, and I want to thank all the podcast, and di nyo ako nakalimutan kahit nag-absent ako.
Yeah, they miss you.
Ikaw, Ro.
Okay, hindi nag-sink in sa akin yung enormity of our 9th anniversary until today. It's crazy that it's been 9 years since we started after Joshi Jam and then after WrestleMania 30. Shoutouts sa viewing party ng PWR. It was because of them that we were able to catch it live, diba? So if we didn't get through that, we wouldn't have been able to record that night. So thank you. Hindi siya nag-sink in kasi I do so much work for this every week that I don't get to sit back and appreciate the fact na consistently top tayo sa Philippine charts. We are the first option on Spotify when you search wrestling podcasts. We are number 5, number 1 sa Kenya, number 100 sa Germany, number 100 sa India. No, legit yun. I'm not making that up. I really do get emails every night.
Salamat VPN.
No, but it's also because it's crazy that we got to reach out to people around the world. Sometimes because of the friends that PWR brought in, yung mga ating international dayo, but also because people got to hear about us. I don't know why, but they just did. Tapos we also got to live our dream, my dream of being quoted sa dirt sheets because of Andrew Goldstein.
Hey, shout out to Andrew Goldstein.
Before he retracted that comment that he made about...
Kaya hindi na siya bumalik eh.
No, pero kinakaso pa rin niya tayo. But yeah, my dream for this is to eventually make it some sort of day job. Like, I would really like for myself to have a day job of just consuming wrestling all day, every day of the week, and then talking about it to whoever would listen, which is apparently marami sa atin. So thank you so much for taking a chance on us and believing in us, for going to us to help you process your feels. I say that every week sa show notes whenever we upload sa Acast, sa Spotify. But it really is true. I do find that people run to us first to process their feels. Back when I was answering questions on TikTok, they would go to us first to ask our opinion, or my opinion. So this is really crazy na we got to this point in local Philippine fandom, even if it's not like across the entire country. It's just that we got to this point, and that's really cool. And thank you to everyone, to you guys, the boys, for your part in making this happen.
For me, I want to start by thanking my dad kasi I've shared this story on the pod before, but back in 2012, it was Dad and Ro who were pushing me to talk about wrestling on a podcast before any of us really knew what podcasts were, especially here in the Philippines, diba, na only in the last 3 years talagang nag-pick up yung podcasting. So it was really my dad who got on my nerves and my back to get on a podcast, A breakup, Joshi Jam, and a couple of years later, Ro and I recorded the first ever episode. So it really starts with my dad. And ganun din, like what Ro said, yung the 9 years just flew by, and it's nuts that wrestling has actually become something that is sort of a job na for me. I'm at a point where Aryan and I are about to pay for our house with some money that I've earned from wrestling, and this is money that I could not have had access to had it not been for the podcast.
Si Ninong Vince pala yun.
Thank you, Boss H.
Ninong H.
Ninong Paul.
No, but to be very serious about it, it's really nuts. This is something I can say that the things that we are able to afford now, a lot of it come from the podcast because, like Emil, I also did dream of being in sports media. And because yung generation ko, they already called dibs on those prime seats na I have to wait for someone to literally die, rest in peace Ed Picson, and or like retire before sitting in a booth like that. The next best thing was to create your own niche, which Ro and I got to do when we first started doing the podcast. So I really owe so much of where my career is at today to the pod and the doors it's opened for me because 22-year-old me or 23-year-old me would probably, be very stunned that all of this is happening. And it also would not happen without all of your support, all of the listeners, all the patrons, all the friends we've made along the way, even the enemies we've made and talked about over the years. And syempre, all of the things in wrestling, all the institutions and companies that we've had the pleasure and unfortunate displeasure of talking about. We really owe so much to the entire wrestling community, both here and abroad, because without that, then the Wrestling podcast probably would not exist. So, yun, a big thank you to everybody.
Parang yung bagong commercial ni Daniel Padilla. No? Dati pinipilit ka, ngayon WWE commentator ka na.
Yeah. So there. To wrap this up, let's thank our sponsors again. Thank you to Crep Talk Cafe. Go follow them on social media at Crep Talk Cafe. Thank you to Clyde and Chloe for the coffee and tea bags that you're going to get on your way out.
Clyde X Cloix, CLOIX on Instagram and on Facebook.
Yes.
And thank you to Meshwa Shawarma. Meron pa rito, kailangan natin microwave mamaya konti.
At Meshwe Restaurant, MESHWE Restaurant on social media as well.
Thank you to all of our generous sponsors and to Podcast Network Asia. Once again, a round of applause for Ivan, for Jasper,
Tsaka
for Jackie and Kuya Phil.
Lahat ng naging
yes. Oh my God.
Shout out to the one and only Nikai.
Shout out to Buck, Babyface producer, OG Babyface producer Ryan.
Ryan, especially.
Who created the OBB that you guys still hear today.
See, Ryan was actually the one who asked us if we wanted to be part of Podcast Network Asia.
That's right.
He was the one that
opened the door.
The foot in the door, exactly. So thank you to Ryan. Thank you to Migs, who was also a producer as well. May nakalimutan pa ba ako, guys?
Sino Boss Ron? Boss Joseph.
Thank you.
To Boss Ron, Boss Joseph. Crap. Yes, there's another producer whose name escapes me right now.
Sola.
Gel and
Sola. Gel and Sola. There we go. Thank you to everybody. Lahat basta, if we forget you,
ang dami na kasi umalis
ba't kasi kayo maalis?
Huwag kayo umalis.
Literally a revolving door.
Pero thank you to everybody who helped us, who made cover art for us, who helped us on social media.
For making us sound so much better than we actually are.
Diba, who held our hand during the early days in sa PNA. Thank you.
And for sustaining the pod through this post-lockdown phase that we're in, and for letting us record with everyone here. One more time, let's give each other a round of applause for being here on a Sunday for the 9th anniversary recording of the Wrestling Podcast. It means a lot to us that all of you are here. So on behalf of Emil ASH, go follow him at EML_Meister, Chino Liao at Chino Supersized, Rowan ASH at Monday Night Rowan, Romaran at Rosewar, and myself at _Stancy. Thank you very much for being here. Thank you for being a part of the Wrestling Podcast experience. Please stay safe, stay healthy, and don't be a dick. Wrestling Podcast out. Bye-bye.
Peace.
The views and opinions expressed by the podcast creators, hosts, and guests do not necessarily reflect the official policy and position of Podcast Network Asia, the hosts of the program, or other programs of the network. Any content provided by the people on the podcast are of their own opinion and are not intended to malign any religion, ethnic group, club, organization, company, individual, or anyone or anything.